Welcome to the BOMA Kansas City March membership program, Business Efficiencies, featuring Zachary Evans, Managing Principal of Clearview Savings Consultants. Zach is 60 years old, but is feeling 40 and is a firm believer in what comes around goes around. He is a former owner of a healthcare business for over 20 years, and he helped launch a meal prep franchise 1.5 years ago that has now grown to over 40 locations and is the fastest growing meal prep company in the US. He's a business coach, digital marketer, and a consultant specializing in growing businesses' bottom lines by reducing costs and increasing sales. Welcome, Zach.
Thank you very much. You're a good reader.
I try.
Thank you all. I appreciate being here. And I hope that you get some good information out of what I'm going to present today. Some of it may not apply to you, but as Crystal said, I believe in what comes around goes around. So, bringing value to people's lives, to your clients' lives, maybe you could share it and have it do something good for you. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of get started here, if that's okay.
Quick reminder to everybody that when somebody's sharing a screen, you can drag your screen left to right to make the share screen smaller or larger.
Okay. And I actually, okay. You guys see my screen okay and hear me okay? Okay. Crystal, you hear me okay? Okay, I've done something here.
Oh, you're good. I can hear you. Oh, no, I could totally hear you. Sorry. Now you're on mute, Zach. There you go. There you go.
I don't know why it did that. I couldn't hear you, and then I muted it myself, I guess. Okay, sorry about that. I'm not technology and I sometimes don't always get along, but anyway, as Crystal said, I own Clearview Savings Consultants. Just kind of give you a little bit of background on me that Crystal didn't have, but I owned a portable x-ray company for 20 years. It actually was 3 portable x-ray companies. There was one in the Kansas City market, served all of Northwest Missouri and Northeast Kansas. One in the Omaha, Council Bluffs market, Clearview Mobile Imaging, and then one for the balance of Missouri, which was Ozark Mobile Imaging. Started that business. It was kind of a fluke. I met a retired radiology inspector from California, and we were already in the healthcare sector and owned a home health agency and a private duty agency. And he said, you need to start a portable x-ray company. And I said, I don't even know what one of those are. But basically, we went and x-rayed people that couldn't get out and people you didn't want out. So think homebound patients, nursing home patients, psychiatric hospitals, county jails, state prisons, federal prisons. I mean, we had the gamut and met a lot of interesting folks through all those different channels. So ran that for 20 years, and Obamacare came along and kind of saw the writing on the wall, just trying to keep up with the technology in the radiology side was hard enough. We started with plain films, and we actually hand walked them to the radiologist to be read. Then it went to where we digitized the film. So think about like a flatbed scanner type of deal. And then, of course, with the age of the internet, we were able to then send those films over phone lines. Then next thing you know, comes along with phosphorus plates. You don't even have film anymore. And so just keeping up with that was hard enough. And with Obamacare, we had to integrate all of your patient records, all your clinical history and everything else, so that it would seamlessly go to any other provider. So just the cost of that was going to be phenomenal. and I had a strategic buyer in place and was able to sell it, and took a little time off. And then my son started his business, a nutrition supplement company, and he's done quite well with it. And then he started a meal prep company. So that I actually got to help him start that. 40 franchises in a year and a half may not sound big, but most franchises never make it to 100. He's on track to do that probably in the next year to year and a half. So I've really enjoyed helping him watch that and helping him grow it, plus watch it grow. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. I also am, and this goes back to what Crystal said about the, what comes around goes around. I like to add value to people's lives. I like to help people. That's just that's my nature. So when a lot of times when I'm consulting with business people, I hear the negative thoughts, or I hear the negative side of things. And one of the things I try to put out there is, and I don't know where I got this from, I read it somewhere, but kill the ants. And what ants are any negative thoughts. And so, I try to bring that through to them, because if you get your mind in the right place, it's phenomenal how things change, what comes your way. I mean, just like this call today, and I appreciate Tom recommending me for it, but I think that if you have your mind in the right place, things do come your way. It's the law of attraction. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to kind of go over the basics. This is just a quick outline of the topics. I told you about my background, who we are. Everything that I'm going to talk about are things that we have. I like to think of myself, and I wish I could come up with a term for it, but you've heard of a manufacturer's rep. Manufacturer's rep obviously represents manufacturers' goods, and they may have 10 different companies or 5 different companies that they work with. I actually work with a lot of different companies. Our firm works with a lot of different companies. So you're going to hear a diverse background of different things that could be applied to a number of businesses. So that's kind of who we are, who we are not. I'm not giving any legal advice today. I'm not giving any accounting advice today. There are some things that'll be, talked about that, hey, you might want to talk to your CPA, or you might want to talk to, a lawyer about. But again, I'm none of those things. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So that's kind of who we are not. I do have such subject matter experts that I'd be more than happy to, have you get in touch with if you want to hear more about anything that I'm going to be talking about today. So anyway, back to the, I'm just going to start with the basics of business efficiencies. I'm going to go into some of what the internet has been doing, kind of the do's and the don'ts. Some of it may be some things I would bet that a lot of it you don't. Reputation management, outsourcing VAs, what that is, how that works. Cost seg, property tax mitigation. I threw those in there just because of who your group is, and then just other services to cut costs or increase efficiencies. Couple books that and again, this is just trying to give a little bit of value. If you haven't read these books, these are 2 that I just finished reading. The E-Myth Revisited is great if you're of an entrepreneurial spirit. It's a really good book. It kind of gives a lot of thought. Same, this little book of greatness it's kind of an off the wall book. It's not very well known, but the gentleman that wrote it was actually, I met him through, he was applied to be one of our franchisees. And that's how I picked that book up. And it's actually a great book. So just something, if you're looking for something to read, there you go. The same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. It's about what you're made of, not the circumstances. There's a lot of truth to that, and it can go a lot of different angles, a lot of different ways. we're all human and we're all different. There's no doubt about it. So just food for thought there. Okay, so getting into business efficiencies. You've got strategies and changes that you can, and making choices and adopting tools and processes. And as you go through those, you're looking to lessen your costs, and not just your costs, but how you process things, or how things are perceived to your tenants, if you will, your employees. I mean, just how things all fit together. And so when I talk about business efficiencies, or start to visit about business efficiencies, I'll give you an example, and this is kind of a archaic example, but because you guys are in the building owners and building managers, I think of my grandfather. When I was a kid, he owned a lot of rental property, and first of every month he'd go and get in his truck to collect rent. And was it very efficient? No. Well, it was, because he got his rent when he wanted his rent, and they knew he was coming to get it. But you think about all the costs that were associated with that: his time, the gas, the wear and tear on his vehicle, all those different things. Fast forward now, we've got Venmo, you got PayPal, you've got all these things that you can use, processes and tools that you can use to where you get that rent right away. Now, granted, I own some rental property too, and every once in a while you get a bad tenant, or one that comes on bad times. COVID was a good example, to where they can't pay their rent, or they're late with their rent. So you may have to go get in your vehicle and go see them. But just again, talking about efficiencies and talking about how how it's not just cost. It's talk about employee happiness here. If you have an employee, you have to go say, hey, go collect that rent. They're probably not going to be too happy about doing that. So when you go through and you look at efficiencies, you want to look at all the different things that impact them. Back to, we're all different. No universal mathematical equation applies. It doesn't. We're all different. All our businesses are different. Our goals, our values, our experiences. So, it's going to be different for everybody. No doubt about it. I ran into this, and I thought this is really a great, this has got some good information to share. Ideas don't happen in a vacuum. You have to have communication back and forth. There has to be, even if it's somebody that's bragging about, hey, we tried this new, whatever it is, and it worked so well. And then you get a hold of that idea, and it's, oh, shoot, if we added this and this to it, where would that take us? So it's not in a vacuum. It's communication. It's meetings like this. It's back before COVID, was the conventions or whatever. So Motorola, I didn't realize this, came up with Six Sigma. And if you're not familiar with Six Sigma, it's actually techniques and tools and process improvements. Again, I didn't know Motorola came up with it. Toyota came up with total quality management. That is standards that are be applied at all level, management standards that are applied at all levels of their facility. But it went from Toyota or Motorola here, and now everybody uses these. So just a real good basic knowledge of what business efficiencies are. So now I'm going to get into more, the efficiencies themselves. And I'm going to talk to you about reputation management, which you may or may not, I know you've seen, but I think you'll get a kick out of hearing it. I'm going to specifically talk about Google. If you guys remember a few years back, Yahoo was the search engine of choice. I mean, that's what everybody used. Now, short few years later, Google is. and that'll keep changing, just like everything changes. But I'm going to specifically talk about Google because they are the king right now. I'm going to visit with you about websites and how the importance of them, and some things that you may not even know about websites. And then, of course, optimization, search engine optimization, backlinks and citations, just so you guys have a better understanding of what takes place there. So reputation management. This happens to be one of my clients, East Hills Cleaners here in St. Joe. And you guys, as you go to, you Google a business, let's say in this case, you're looking for a cleaners. And when you Google that business, you'll have ads come up at the top of the Google search engine. And then right below that is a map. And it'll have pinpoints on it of the businesses that rank. And then there's like 3 businesses below that will be the top ranking ones. And in those rankings, these stars are filled out. And it'll be, it'll be, 4.5 stars, 5 stars, 3 stars, whatever the case may be. So with reputation management, and let me back up a half second. The higher stars you have in that Google map that you pull up, the higher stars you have, one of the factors is you will actually rank higher. It's not the only factor, but the higher the stars you have, that will push you towards the top. When you get into Google Analytics, it pushes you towards the top, along with a lot of other factors that I'll go over here. So again, if you have a customer that comes in and they only give you 2 stars because they had a bad experience, or they give you 3 stars or 1 star because they had a bad experience, what reputation management does, rather than that going directly to Google and lowering your the number of stars you have, which affects your ranking, we actually have proprietary software that we could put in that, instead of those going straight to Google or straight to your website, if you have stars on your website, it'll actually bring that, anything from a 3 or below, it'll bring it directly to you as a business owner or manager, to where you can say, hey, we need to take care of this problem. So in a nutshell, that's what reputation management does. It's a great tool, and it does help you with your rankings in the internet. If you're not familiar with the GMB, Google My Business listing, again, that is part of that map pack that comes up when you Google a business. If you haven't filled one of those out on your business, I highly recommend that you do. They're a free listing. It's going to, again, help you in your rankings. So that's the importance of it, obviously. And then on Google Analytics, I just want to kind of go over that real quick. When they crawl your site, when they actually, when their program, their software crawls your site, they look at all kinds of things. They look at your content. They look at, and by content, the number of words, your keywords, all of your citations, your backlinks, your search engine optimization, everything that can be there. And then that's how you get ranked. If you want to be up at the top of the list, and that's where you want to be, because if your car breaks down and you put tow truck near me or tow truck Kansas City, the ones that come up first are probably, you're going to call the first 1 or 2. If you're broke down, you're probably going to call the first one. And if they answer their phone, you hope they do, that's the only phone call you're going to make. So again, that's the importance of making sure you have all of your website to perform the most for you. So let's talk about web page content. Believe it or not, most businesses don't know this. Most business people don't know this, but you can pull up a web page, and sometimes it's not real important. Like if you look on my web page, it's not real important, because the only people that are going to my web page or website are people that are specifically looking for me. They don't search for the most part, for a business consultant. Most of the time, they're actually seeking me out. So this is real important to me, and it may not be important to you. But if you're in a business that has to rely on Google for customers, it's very important. So you go into a website and you look at it, and it's got 200 or 300 words, and that's just, it's not enough. It's almost like, and don't take this wrong, but it's like the business person doesn't understand, or they're lazy. And you have to have at least 1,000 words on there. So I'll give you an example of this. Get on your computer sometime, go to Google and Google somebody famous, Mike Tyson. And the first thing that comes up that you're going to find is Wikipedia. And the reason why Wikipedia comes up is because they have so much content on Mike Tyson. And they'll have, and I don't care who the person is, but they'll have all this content. And that's why content is important. They'll also have the keywords that makes it rank up there. And what keywords are, so take for instance that you had a pool service, and you can only go and put in pool so many times, and before Google looks at it and says it's spammy. So maybe you put in acid wash, or you put in pool maintenance, or you put in deck cleaning. All those things are keywords that are going to make you stand out and make you more of an expert that Google's going to recognize you for. So keywords, content keywords are huge. Search engine optimization. Basically, what you're looking at, there's strategies and experiments that are going to make your website stand out more than somebody else's. So and again, that it goes back to keywords and it goes back to content, but it's more than that. It's things that your competitor isn't doing. There's actually tools that I use, and I could go through all the names of them, but they're not going to make any sense to you. But there's actually tools that we use that can go in and it could pull up and tells me how many keywords, how many backlinks, how many citations, what the keywords are in your industry that will make you rank higher, what your competitor uses for keywords that makes them rank higher. So that's all what SEO, search engine optimization, is about. Backlinks are, think of those as votes of confidence. So a backlink, you could write, or you could get, I'm trying to think of something to be applicable here. Maybe a real Tom's company. If you can get Tom to, and Tom, I apologize for using you as the guinea pig, but, and I'm not saying, hey, call Tom and do this, but just as an example, if you could get Tom to backlink to your site, that's a vote of confidence. And that's part of what's also going to make you rank higher. You can have people that actually do backlinks for you. And there's spammy backlinks and weak backlinks, and there's real strong backlinks. To have a realtor company that's been in business as long as Tom's has been, and as long as they've been around, that'd be a real strong backlink. So just as an example, Tom, I hope you don't get a bunch of calls for that. And a citation is basically your address, actually your company information. And it may be from a blog you posted, or an article you posted, or an article you wrote. That's what citations are. Again, the more citations you get, the higher your website is going to rank, which also is going to bring you in more business. Sales leads. And I'm actually going to talk about sales leads in the next one. 2 sites are better than one together here. So one of the things that I also do is I have digital property, and we call it rank and rent sites. So, and I'm going to give you a couple examples that I just actually was on the phone with both of them this morning. Down in Florida, Tom, that's why one of the reasons I was down in Florida, always nice to write a trip off. I have a concrete contractor, and I also have a land surveyor. And what I do is I go in and I do my due diligence and find a niche market that isn't is easy to break into, low hanging fruit, if you will. And then I build a website and I bring that website up. I do the search engine optimization. I do backlinks. I do citations. I have reputation management, and I rank that as high as I possibly can. And in this case, both of those websites rank #1. So then once I get leads coming in off of it, and I'll usually go for about a month, maybe 2 months to get a good count on how many leads come in. And as those leads come in, sometimes I refer them to businesses. Sometimes I just hold them until I get a high enough number. That's what I did on the land surveyor. And he's got 40, or it's got 40 leads coming in a month. So then I get on the phone, I start talking to land surveyors to find out who's looking for business, who wants business. And this particular land surveyor said, yeah, I love the business. So he ended up buying the leads from me. And in the process of visiting with him, I told him, hey, here's some things with your website that needs attention. His GMB listing was messed up. He was ranked really low. His star reviews weren't extremely high, and it doesn't take very many to bring that down. He had actually bought the company from his boss, so they were in a process of changing the name, and he's trying to finish up old business and bring it over to new business. So he was in this transition. He had a hard time with it. But once we finish with his site, the goal is to make him rank #1 and #2. So my website will be in the first place because it's there now. I could make it move down if I wanted to put him in #1, but it doesn't make any difference. When somebody says land surveyor or searches land surveyor, you're going to have me in #1 and him in #2, or vice versa. So we're living a society of instant gratification. So what do you do when you Google something? Unless it's an emergency, like your car broke down, you're going to probably call 2, maybe 3. Well, now all of a sudden, he's going to get the first call and he's going to get the second call because he's got both websites. Now, granted, they're different company names, but when a customer comes on and if they're confused or whatever, he just says, hey, that's an affiliate company of mine. And, that's why you got us. So 2 sites are better than 1. It will bring you more business. Just one of the tricks that's out there with websites. Social media, if you're not on social media, you need to be. Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Snapchat. I'm sure there's more than even those that are out there. And again, it's kind of like Yahoo and Google. Facebook used to be the place to be. Now you see more on Instagram. They're still on Facebook, but you see more on Instagram, and you see more on even Snapchat. So you definitely want to be, where the people are, for sure. Okay, now I'm going to transition again, and I'm going to go into cost segregation. I would assume that you all know what cost segregation is, but it's a tax strategy that, and it's commonly used, believe it or not, that companies and individuals who have either constructed, purchased, expanded, or remodeled any kind of real estate to that increases the cash flow and accelerates depreciation. So that it's a commonly used tax strategy. If you haven't used it, and I'll go into the whys and hows here in a second, but if you haven't used it, it could put a lot of money in your pocket. Who qualifies? If you purchased a commercial building or facility, constructed a new one, again, renovated, remodeled, restored, or paid for facility leasehold improvements. Sorry about that. Okay, the benefits of and again, the money is huge. The point that I want to stress here is the cost segregation study brings in approximately $150,000 in annual depreciation per $1 million in purchase or construction cost. And obviously that's over a 39-year straight line depreciation. This is just the stuff in red, not all the stuff in red, but people have a common misconception that you can only do cost of seg on a new building or a new renovation. Down here at the bottom, this is the IRS code. It says a taxpayer may conduct a cost study segregation on used property and then recompute its depreciation deduction. That's the tax code. And I mean, it is what it is. And if you have the ability to at least have a study done, you ought to at least check it out. We've done a lot of them, and it's a great tool. Property tax mitigation, again, the part in red is where I'm what I'm wanting to stress. It's and the benefit of this is it's an immediate benefit. It's going to reduce your taxes, and you'll have the potential of a refund on prior taxes paid, and then you have a future benefit in that your property taxes will be lower. So again, if you've never ever had anything like that, it's worth looking into. It's another common strategy for property owners. This particular company, Optimally, it's new to us. They haven't been around a long time, and you'll kind of understand why as I go through this. These guys are expense analysts. They have They have saved companies over $150 million in their short life. They have $6 trillion worth of expense data linked to them. So they can go through and they can look at literally any, and I'll show you kind of the example here in a second of the of what they actually look at and go through. But they've got all this data, and they save operating costs 25 to 30% and have done it very well. And it's actually, the process pretty simple. All you have to do is give them a general ledger of your operating expenses, and they go in and they can tell you what they can go back and save you. Typical customer is, you've got a business owner that knows they're paying too much, but doesn't know what too much is, and they don't have the time to go back and find out or negotiate contracts or whatever. They're focused on growing their business. They're not wanting to go into the weeds. They don't have the time to go into the weeds to find it. And the only qualification is you have 500,000 in gross revenues to be able to use that service. Here's the expense categories. I mean, you can read that. I'm not going to read it to you, obviously, but just anything and everything is in there. So if you look at that $6 trillion, it's pretty amazing what they've been able to collect just with data. Other cost savers or efficiencies, if you've got customers that do partial shipping, actually that company is located in Kansas City. If you're doing not one or two packages a day, but if you're doing a huge partial ship, these people are fantastic at saving on your bottom line. They just do a great job. We also have a company that does self-funded health insurance plans. They are, again, great company. This same day pay is a new service, fairly new service. You guys probably heard about it a little bit. This is something that doesn't cost the employer anything, doesn't cost the employee anything. And what's nice about it is if you've got an employee that's sitting there working, I don't care what the job is, but they're sitting there working and they're worried about, oh my gosh, my car's broke down, I got to get it fixed. before it does completely quit on me, or I've got to pay the babysitter tonight. They're distracted. They're not paying attention to their work. Or if you're an employer and you've got open shifts that you need to have filled, well, John says, I'd like to have that shift, and but he really wants the shift because he wants to go out Friday night. So he can actually get paid the same day. I'm not advocating that he does that, obviously, but they can get paid the same day. They have they go to their phone, they bring up their app, boom, and they get paid the same day. The employer has the ability to cap their take. It could be 50% of their paycheck, or it could be 75% of their paycheck, or 75% that they don't want them to take. They can only take 25% of it, but they have the ability to cap however they want to. It's a great tool also for getting away from the outrageous fees that payday loan companies charge. I don't know if you guys take credit cards, but zero cost credit card processing is out there. It's a great tool. Why give that 3 to 5% to, off your bottom line? Also, if you do take MasterCard and Visa, there is a class action lawsuit out there. I always, when I talk to any of my clients, if they take MasterCard and Visa, I always tell them, hey, this is like walking down the street and finding money. If you're walking down the street and you see $100 bill on the sidewalk, you're not going to walk by it. And it's a lot more than $100 bill. That class action lawsuit is actually up in the billions. I believe last time I checked, it's like $5 billion that they're getting ready to pay out. If you haven't applied for that, you ought to, because when that pie gets split, it only gets split amongst the people that have put their name in the hat for it to be split. So if your name's not in the hat, you're not going to get a piece of that pie, and that just the bigger piece is going to go to somebody else. Virtual assistants, if you have never had a virtual assistant, it's something that is so cool and so cheap, and you ought to check into it. They're just like any other employee that, you might have to train them. Puerto Rico, the Philippines is another great one. Sometimes when you get into foreign countries, you have a language barrier. That's one of the reasons why I mentioned the Philippines. You could find them for anything and everything. Upworks and Fiverr, those are freelance websites that if you have a talent, say maybe you like to write, you could be a website content writer if you wanted to. And I'm just trying to think of some for instances. I actually was on Upworks and as a business consultant, and I got a job here just recently with a company that was looking for startup capital for a medical app. And so I'm working with that company to find them their 1.5 million. They've already got 8 million to start it. They need a 1.5 to launch it. And so I'm working with a physician down in Texas that, it's just a great way to make extra money or to put yourself out there. Or if you're a business and you're looking for somebody to do a job, maybe it's just one, a one-time deal that you need done, whatever it may be. Great place to look for people. Excellent place to look for people. So that's really, I think, about wraps it up for my side. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. What is a zero cost credit card processing systems?
That's one of the companies that we work with. That actually, there's two different ways that you can do a zero cost credit card processing. This law, I believe, changed in January of 13. Don't quote me on the date, but I believe it was January of 13. Might have been January of 15. But there was a new law that came out, and it's not for every state. I know, for instance, Texas, you can't do this in Texas. You can do it in a lot of other states. Missouri is one of them you can do it in. If you take credit cards, you could actually charge a fee. Now, not a debit card, credit card. Debit cards are excluded from this. But if you take a credit card and you want to pass that fee back to the customer, you could actually, you may have been in a business before where they said, and I'll give you an example of one of them right now. I was at the License Bureau, and it says if you use a credit card, we're going to charge you 3% more or 4% more for what your fee is. The reason why they're doing that is they're wanting you to pay the fee. They're tired of paying fees or having the fees come out of their side. So you don't necessarily need a company to do that. You can do it on your own, but we do have a company that does zero cost credit card processing. So that, in a nutshell, that's what it is, Crystal.
Okay. Yeah, we pay, not really, but we pay a hoard of money for credit card processing. So I'm always looking for something like that. That's a great thing.
If you have been doing that for a while, I don't have the dates in front of me for the lawsuit, for the MasterCard Visa lawsuit. And basically what that was is the class action lawsuit they were charging too much fees, and they got caught. And I think there was some collusion in there too. But if you haven't applied for that, you ought to, because I mean, again, it's just like finding money. If nothing else, you could take yourself maybe on a nice vacation in Florida or something.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an excellent idea. Thank you. Does anybody else have questions? You all have unmute buttons. So if you have a question and would like to ask it. Everybody's looking around at each other. No? Okay. Well, I think that these were great. One of the questions that I saw in there, I used to utilize Google Analytics for things. Can you tell people how they can get into their Google Analytics and see what Google has found and where their keywords are and things like that?
I can. Okay, so let me explain to you again. I'm not great with technology. I have people that do that for me. So you can probably tell better, Crystal, than I can. There's Google Analytics, and it'll show you exactly how to do it.
It does show you exactly how to do it. If you just Google Analytics, and it will pull up a screen and it shows you how many hits your website gets, where the hits are coming from, when they most likely take place, how many pages people are going to on your site. It tells you what the keywords are, like what words you use the most on your website. It's an awesome reference point to see where you are. And then you can, I believe that it has a historical data thing. So you can see if you've made a bunch of changes on your site, how those have affected the traffic flow. And it has times, like how long somebody hovers on a page. So you can see what's most interesting to people. If you ever want to spend a whole ton of money, you can get a marketing firm that will have, I don't know, it's really creepy. Somebody will pull up like what your website is, and it will show you, somebody could show you where one user of your site has been, how long they hovered over specific portions of the site, anything that they've entered into your website, and it follows along their use of your site. So it's super creepy, but those are like the ways that technology can help you to see if the message you're trying to get out is the message that people are receiving. So
you mentioned a couple things that triggered something here. When I mentioned the GMB earlier, another reason why you want to claim that GMB, besides it's free and it helps you, is your competitor can actually claim that GMB and steer them other places that you don't want them to steered. So if you haven't claimed it, claim it. The other thing that I wanted to mention that Crystal, you help remind me, is your bounce rate. And what I mean by bounce rate is somebody comes to your site and then bounces off and you don't get them as a customer. One of the things that if you run an ad, and I don't care if it's a Facebook ad or a Google ad or whatever, don't just have it go back to your website, because that's where your bounce rate really happens. And by bounce rate, I mean that they don't engage you. They don't engage you as a business. You need to have something, a call to action or something that brings them on in. So look at that when you're running ads, or if you do run ads.
So like if you run an ad for people to register for example, an event, you would want it to go to the registration page, right? So that they can register.
Good example. Good example. Correct. Yeah. Don't just send them to your website and then they look and that boom, they're gone.
Right. They can't find what they're looking for. Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions? Good points. No? All right. Well, thank you all for joining. I can do another picture if you guys all want to come back on camera. We can do another photo because we've got more folks. Everybody's like, no pictures. No, there are no people coming back on the camera.
I want to thank all of you. I appreciate your time, and I hope something in there helped you.
Okay, people are coming back, so we are going to get a picture. Thank you so much, Zachary Evans, for coming and joining and speaking with us. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tom, for the recommendation. Thank you, Brandon Greason, for making the outreach and helping to lead the programs committee. All right, I'm going to take a picture now. Will you stop your screen share for just a second, Zach?
I can do it.
Okay. I'm going to count to 3 and then I'm going to hold down the button so I'll get plenty of pictures. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Thank you guys. Yay. Thank you all. Have a wonderful
Thank you all very much.
afternoon.
Tom, thanks. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Crystal.
Bye, everybody.